Magnus trusted his brother Bjorn with everything, his fleet, his gold, his very life. But when the slave ships arrived at dawn, Magnus realized his blood brother had already collected his 30 pieces of silver. What Bjorn didn't know was that some chains break, and some men return from hell itself. In the frozen lands of 9th century Norway, 2 brothers ruled the northern seas like gods among mortals. Magnus Ironwill, the elder by 3 winters, commanded respect through strength and wisdom. His younger brother, Bjorn Goldtooth, earned his name through cunning trades that filled their coffers with Roman silver and Byzantine gold. They had sworn the ancient oath of brotherhood by mingling their blood over Thor's sacred hammer. "Your enemies are my enemies," Bjorn had declared that winter night, firelight dancing across his eager face. "Your honor is my honor. Your death would be my death." Magnus believed every word, because blood doesn't lie, or so he thought. The brothers built an empire together. Magnus led the raids while Bjorn negotiated with merchants. Their longships returned heavy with treasure, their warriors singing victory songs that echoed across the fjords. The name Ironwill became legend from Iceland to Constantinople. But legends have a way of attracting jealous eyes. Roman merchants began approaching Bjorn in secret. They offered something more valuable than gold: information about new slave routes, profitable trading posts, and most tempting of all, a proposal that would make him the wealthiest man in Scandinavia. "Your brother is strong," the Roman negotiator whispered during a feast, wine making his tongue loose. "But strength without cunning is just brutality. You, however, you understand the art of profit." The seed was planted. Night after night, Bjorn stared at the treasure chests, calculating numbers. Magnus received the glory, but Bjorn did the work. Magnus got the loyalty, but Bjorn deserved the reward. The thoughts grew like poison in his mind. When the Romans offered 30 chests of gold for exclusive trading rights, Bjorn saw his chance. All they wanted was Magnus out of the picture, permanently. Magnus woke to the sound of armed men surrounding his longhouse. Through the morning mist, he saw familiar faces, his own warriors, led by his own brother. But these weren't rescue faces. These were guilty faces. "Brother," Magnus called out, genuinely confused, "what brings you here at dawn with swords drawn?" Bjorn stepped forward, avoiding his brother's eyes. Roman slavers emerged from behind the warriors, chains rattling in their hands like serpents. "Nothing personal, Magnus," Bjorn's voice cracked slightly, "but 30 chests of Roman gold buy a lot of loyalty. You taught me that success requires sacrifice." Magnus felt the world tilt beneath his feet, not from fear. He'd faced death 1,000 times, but from the realization that blood could lie after all. "You swore an oath, brother," Magnus said quietly, even as the chains closed around his wrists. "Oaths don't fill empty bellies or build ships," Bjorn replied, but his hands shook as he spoke. The Roman slave galleys were floating tombs. Chained to an oar, Magnus found himself pulling alongside warriors from a dozen conquered lands. The overseer's whip carved stories of pain across his back. The salt spray burned his wounds. The endless rhythm of rowing became his heartbeat. But Magnus didn't break. In the darkness of the galley, he made new bonds, not of blood this time, but of shared suffering. There was Dmitri, a Byzantine captain whose own crew had sold him for debts; Ahmed, a Moorish navigator betrayed by pirates; Eric, a Saxon lord whose nephew had poisoned his wine. Each man carried a story of betrayal. Each man nursed a hunger for justice. "We are the forgotten," Magnus whispered during the brief rest periods, "but forgotten men have nothing left to lose." Years passed like seasons of suffering, but in that floating hell, something unexpected happened. Magnus discovered abilities he never knew he possessed. Leading warriors in battle was simple compared to keeping broken men alive in hopeless conditions. He learned to heal wounds with herbs the Moorish sailors taught him. He mastered languages from his fellow slaves. Most importantly, he learned patience, the kind of patience that plans 15 years into the future. During storms, when the Romans cowered in their quarters, Magnus and his brothers in chains whispered about freedom. Not just escape, but the kind of freedom that comes with the power to never be chained again. When Ahmed died from fever, he pressed a small pouch into Magnus's hand. "Byzantine fire," he whispered, "the secret recipe. Use it well, my brother." When Eric succumbed to infection, he shared the location of Saxon gold hidden on the English coast. "For the brotherhood," he gasped with his final breath. The opportunity came during their 7th year of slavery. A storm of legendary fury struck their convoy near the Greek islands. As the ship pitched and rolled, Magnus made his move. Using the Byzantine fire formula, he created an explosion that shattered their chains and set the galley ablaze. In the chaos, 17 slaves escaped into the storm-tossed sea. Only 6 survived the swim to shore, but those 6 men, forged by suffering, united by betrayal, led by a Viking with nothing left to lose, would reshape the Mediterranean world. Freedom was just the beginning. On the Greek islands, Magnus didn't just survive, he thrived. Using Eric's hidden Saxon gold, they bought weapons and hired desperate men. Using Ahmed's navigation secrets, they found trading routes the Romans had abandoned. But Magnus had learned something more valuable than gold or routes. He'd learned that loyalty couldn't be bought. It had to be earned through shared blood, sweat, and survival. He gathered the outcasts, escaped slaves, dishonored soldiers, merchants betrayed by their own families, men who had lost everything and therefore feared nothing. Under Magnus's leadership, they became something new, not raiders seeking quick profit, but builders creating lasting power. They established bases on remote islands. They forged alliances with tribes the Romans had forgotten. Most cunningly, they began freeing other slave ships, not for mercy, but to recruit the most dangerous warriors in the known world. By the 10th year, rumors began spreading through Roman ports about a ghost fleet, ships that appeared from nowhere, destroyed slaving vessels, and vanished without taking traditional treasure. Instead, they freed the cargo and recruited the strongest survivors. Roman merchants whispered about a scarred giant who spoke perfect Norse, Latin, Greek, and Arabic. A man who negotiated like a merchant but fought like a demon. A man whose very presence seemed to drain the courage from his enemies. Magnus had become something more dangerous than a simple Viking raider. He'd become a symbol of what happened when the powerful betrayed the wrong person. 15 winters had passed since the morning of chains. Magnus stood on the deck of his flagship, watching the Norwegian coast emerge from the morning mist. His hair was now streaked with silver, his face marked by scars that told stories of impossible survival. Behind him sailed 23 ships filled with the most dangerous men in the known world. Warriors who had lost everything and found something worth dying for in Magnus's cause. They spoke a dozen languages, but shared one prayer, that Magnus's brother would resist, because they were eager to show what 15 years of betrayal had taught them about violence. Magnus touched the Thor's hammer pendant at his throat, the same one he had worn the night Bjorn swore his oath. Some chains had been broken, but some promises were eternal. The village bells rang across the fjords as Bjorn prepared for his coronation as High Jarl. 15 years had transformed the betrayer into a respected leader. The guilt had faded, replaced by the comfortable conviction that he'd made the practical choice. But as the ceremonial crown touched his head, war horns echoed across the water. Ships emerged from the morning mist, flying colors no one recognized, carrying warriors whose scars told stories of impossible survival. On the lead vessel stood a figure that should have been dead for 15 years, older, scarred, transformed by suffering into something harder than the iron that had once given him his name. Magnus had returned, and he'd brought hell with him. Bjorn's face went white as the memories crashed over him like a killing wave. 30 pieces of silver suddenly felt very expensive indeed. The brotherhood forged in blood had been broken, but the brotherhood forged in betrayal and suffering? That one would last forever. If this tale of ancient vengeance moved you, hit that like button and let us know in the comments which part shocked you the most. Subscribe to Time for Payback for more legendary stories where betrayal meets justice, and don't forget to ring that notification bell, because every betrayal has its reckoning, and every story holds the power to change everything. What revenge story should we tell next? Drop your suggestions below. Until next time, remember, karma never forgets. On fire.